Hi, I'm Jack Porter. I'm the person who produced the Jack's Tea Party series of videos. Also, we've got a number of these on YouTube. I want to talk to you about several things. I'm going to reproduce these videos again. They're timeless, so even though some of them are pretty old, I think they're still, well, they're interesting to me. I hope you'll find them interesting. But before I get into that stuff, I'm sitting in the studio at the Land Information Access Association, and they've taken over the public access television. This is very important. I've lived in China on and off for about 18 years, well, 16 years. Altogether, I've got about 10 or 11 years in China, and free speech is an issue. It's an issue in China. It's an issue in the United States, too. Quite honestly, in China, as long as you don't talk about the 3 T's, you're pretty much free to have civil conversations with people. You can't talk about Tiananmen, Taiwan, or Tibet. But other than that, you can talk about just about anything, and you're not going to get in much of an argument. Over here, I find myself more constrained because you can't talk about any issue that has to do with politics or the environment, immigration, anything before somebody comes unglued and starts arguing with you, gets in your face, and accuses you of stuff. That's a restriction on free speech. And I think that's why we're getting a lot of people who are just not getting involved in politics or their local community. And we need that. If we don't have involvement of the public in the local community, we're going to lose it. Abe Lincoln said, could any nation so conceived continue? A free country. And if we don't use our freedoms and we don't take advantage of our free speech to govern ourselves, we're going to lose it. We can't look to politicians to take care of it all for us. Anyway, Land Information Access Association is an important aspect of this public television, of free speech. Let me tell you how it works. I was involved in this. I was a township supervisor for years, and I've been involved with this public access television a long time. 4 units of government: City of Traverse City, Garfield, East Bay, Elmwood, are all supporting public access television, and they do it they get 30% of the franchise fees collected in those units of government. Now, Leah is handling public access television from Manistee to roughly Cadillac and up to the bridge, all Northwest Michigan. Only 4 units of government are contributing to support this. Now, a lot of units of government are collecting a franchise fee, 5% of your cable bill. If you're in that area, 5% is usually collected as a franchise fee, and the township or the city puts this money in their general fund, and they spend it however they want, not contributing to the public television situation. You can have your board meetings on television, your city commission meetings on television. You can have private producers, individuals that care about something. Like right now, I have a chance to come down here and make a video and tell the world what I'm thinking. This is a great thing. And only 4 units of government are taking advantage of that. A lot of these units are getting the franchise money, but they're not contributing it back to support public access television, to make the experience of public access TV richer. Public access TV in Northwest Michigan is on channel 189 and 191. Kind of hard to find. We don't know how many people are watching those channels, but we do know that the Land Information Access Association has a website. And all of these videos that we're creating here can be on YouTube and be available to the world. So you can watch public access TV on 189 and 191, or you can go to the internet and see those. Go to their website. So it's a great service, and in a world where everybody's challenging your free speech, I think this is a great resource. We can't reform the whole democratic system from the presidency on down. I think we know by now that there's no special wisdom in Washington, D.C. that's going to teach us how we can govern our democracy. So go down to the city commission, go down to the township hall, find out how much of your budget includes revenue from cable television. Ask them if they want to support public access television. Just ask them. They're either going to be for it or they're against it. They're taking money out of the system, taking money out of the pockets of the people who are paying their cable TV bills. Some of those bills are very substantial. So they're taking this money and they're putting it in the general fund, and they're not putting it back into cable TV like public access. I think this is a good use for some of the money you pay in to your cable TV company. And your township and your city, they all have the ability to contribute this money to support public access TV. So this is my recommendation. Get involved, if only to look at the budget once a year. As citizens, you should be doing that anyway. You don't depend on some politician to tell you whether you're spending your money right, whether you're collecting too much or too little. Go down there, look at the budget yourself, ask some questions, and find out, do they want to support public access television or not? That's a yes or no answer. If they want to support it, put in a 30% of what you collect from cable companies. Well, I have a lot of other issues that I want to talk to you about. Technology. I've always been a technology bug. I'd like to see the United States become a leader again, and we're losing that leadership. China's got a tremendous technological funding. They're graduating more engineers every year than we are, and they're funding technology. I'll leave it at that. I'll give you some more information as we proceed. Thank you.
The pre-flare maneuver executed. Landing gear down and locked. Main gear touchdown. Hurley now deploying the drag chute. Ferguson rotating the nose gear down to the deck. Nose gear touchdown. Having fired the imagination of a generation, a ship like no other, its place in history secured, the space shuttle pulls into port for the last time. Its voyage at an end.
Mission complete, Houston. After serving the world for over 30 years, the space shuttle has earned its place in history and it's come to a final stop.
We copy your will stop, and we'll take this opportunity to congratulate you, Atlantis, as well as the thousands of passionate individuals across this great spacefaring nation who truly empowered this incredible spacecraft, which for 3 decades has inspired millions around the globe. Job well done, America.
Hey, thanks, Butch. Great words. Great words. You know, the space shuttle's changed the way we view the world, and it's changed the way we view our universe. There's a lot of emotion today, but one thing's indisputable. America's not going to stop exploring. Thank you, Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, Endeavour, and our ship Atlantis. Thank you for protecting us and bringing this program to such a fitting end. God bless all of you. God bless the United States of America.
Inspiring comments, Atlantis. We'll meet you on 5-3.
We'll see you there, Butch.
Hi there.
Hi,
What's this?
this is our robot for the first robotics competition.
Okay.
I'm Haley Klein from the Manufacturing Technology Academy with the Career Tech Center in Traverse City. And this is our first robotics robot, which was designed to play the game Breakaway, which is a 3-on-3 soccer game played on a field divided into 3 sections by bumps, which you can either go over or you can go through the tunnel. And our robot was designed to go under the tunnel, so it had to be under 18 inches tall, which was one of our design constraints we decided on. We also decided to use mechanism wheels, which using vectors allowed us to go either side to side or forward or backwards without having to actually turn the robot around, which helps with maneuverability, which is an excellent component to have if you're playing a soccer game.
What's a vector?
A vector, it's physics. It's if you have a force going up and a force going sideways, it ends up with a force going along. It's like a triangle, and then it makes a. It's kind of hard to explain.
I think
Yeah.
you did pretty good.
It's
it has
forces
to be-
fighting against each other.
And,
Yeah.
and one goes one direction, one
One goes the
another,
other, and ends up with one force in
and it
a
ends up
different
somewhere
direction.
in between, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, how'd you get involved in this?
I was part of the MTA program last year, and they did the first team. And every senior at MTA has to have a senior project. So since I'd been involved with it last year, I decided to be involved with it this year too for my project.
Okay, so MTA is what again?
It's the Manufacturing Technology Academy. It's part of the Career Tech Center. It's housed in the MTech building by the airport. And it draws students from all over the 5-county area that are interested in furthering their knowledge on science and technology. And it's really in-depth in academics and hands-on.
So are you going to go to college after this?
Yeah, I'm going to the University of Michigan for engineering.
Well, congratulations on getting involved.
Thank you.
What brings you to Traverse City?
Well, the National Cherry Festival is obviously a big event for you guys, and this year we were asked by the Haggerty family to come up and see if we could support their efforts to make a great car show in town. And since NASA's had a little bit to do with cars, mainly the lunar roving vehicles on the moon, we thought we could certainly do that.
Oh, so that's the connection
That is the connection, yeah. We do all kinds of vehicle work. Obviously, we have some rovers on the planet Mars right now. They're still working after 6 years. We had 3 cars on the moon that are still there, and so we were kind of a natural tie-in. The car collecting community has a lot of the same endeavors, problems, and trials that we do in trying to solve problems with systems and engines and operating things. And it's all about trying to make things more efficient or
reliability. You can't call a mechanic on the moon.
cheaper, better, faster, weather, all of those things. So that was an extra tie-in for us, and we were glad to bring out some elements of the space agency that belongs to the public. It's a public entity. The NASA Space Agency is a thing that belongs to everybody that lives in the country and pays their taxes.
Hi, Jerry Lininger. I'm a former astronaut, now living in Leelanau County. What a great spot, beautiful place on Earth. You know, up in space, you're in a closed ecosystem. You're up in a space station, you got to make your air, you got the oxygen, you got to check the content every day, the pressure. Then you look down at planet Earth and you say, hey, it's the same thing, closed ecosystem. Little band of atmosphere, you don't see a whole lot. When you look out the window, you realize we're in a closed ecosystem. Space station, we had a fire. Smoke spewing into the air. I realized unless we clean that smoke, I'm going to be breathing it for the next 4 months. Planet Earth, you know, oil spills, volcanoes exploding, all the different things, closed ecosystem, same basic concept. You know, need to take care of things down here on the planet, just like up in space.
That must have been quite a shock for you when you saw the Gulf of Mexico blow out and.
Yeah, you know, the Gulf of Mexico, I've worked in some very high-risk, small probability sort of areas in engineering, and the Gulf oil spill is a shock that people don't have contingency plans in place and don't have redundant systems. Space shuttle, we build it triply redundant. If you have a critical support or a critical engineered system, you engineer it to the best of your ability, and then automatic override to a secondary system, manual override to a tertiary system. That's how we control risk. You know, you look down at the Gulf, and I'm not an oil engineer, but it's just incredible to me that they don't have backup systems behind critical systems like that.
Well, do you think that
and they need a good, you know, old Navy submariner that knows how to deal in critical things like nuclear power and understand how to control risk. When the probabilities are very small, you still have to control them if the end result would be a catastrophe, and obviously that's what we just had down in the Gulf.
So your profit motive versus safety and versus environment, that's something. Do you ever worry, when you went into space, did you ever worry about the low bidder being the one that built your...
Low bidder building the stuff. Not really. Great quality control. Really, NASA's, I think, main goal is to look at the quality of things, make sure things are built properly, make sure the redundant systems are in place. And it's a bunch of private contractors that build these things. You know, some little tool and die shop in Peoria, Illinois is building, you know, a critical bolt that's holding together something on a spacecraft. And on a spacecraft, everything is critical. So I think a lot of people take a lot of pride that they are building that bolt in Peoria, Illinois, and they're not going to be the failure point in a space shuttle mission.
You've been an astronaut. What else is
You know,
there?
what else do you do? People say, are you bored, you know, down here on the planet? I'll tell you, after being an astronaut, 5 months, Russian space station, critical life support systems failing, fire, tumbling, I'll tell you, you're back on Earth, and I just count my blessings. It is so nice, carefree existence. The air's around us. We don't have to make it. You know, I jump up, I land. I mean, it's just such a pleasure to live in such an incredible spot on Earth like we live in that I'm not bored at all. You know, I'll go out my kayak and roll it over in the middle of the lake just to get a little adrenaline rush. But generally, I'm very content to be back on Earth, and I appreciate more so than ever the great blessings we have on the Earth because of that experience out in space.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. My pleasure. Hope that's okay. Hi, young man. How are you? What's your name? Connor. I'm Jerry. Nice to meet you. I'm an old...
We're recording. My name is Jack Porter.
I'm Carl Hayworth.
Carl. What brings you here today?
I am here with the Manufacturing Technology Academy. My home school is Traverse City Central High School, and I built this robot right down here, which is the heavyweight sumo robot. And it's too heavy, I can't pick it up right now. It's 125 pounds, and I competed with it.
Wait a minute. What is this program again that you're
It's called the Manufacturing Technology Academy.
And is that part of the Traverse City School District?
It's part of the TVA ISD school district, which is the 5-county area. And I am enrolled at Traverse City Central High School, but I take the program through TVA. When it spins in a circle, it uses our LED-based sensors to pick up the opponent, When both sensors on one side pick up an opponent, it will charge for the opponent. It will try to push it out of a 15-foot, 2-inch ring, or square, excuse me.
So this is one of those robot wars kind of devices?
It's not a robot war because it doesn't destroy the other robot, but it does try to push it out autonomously using the sensors. So.
I'd be happy to answer questions or try to do so. Have you gotten any?
Okay. Well, what's your name?
So my name's Dennis Stocker. I'm originally from Michigan, but I'm now working at the John Glenn Research Center in Cleveland, Ohio.
Ohio.
So the NASA Center there.
How many shuttles are there?
So we currently have a fleet of 3 shuttles that are flying. So Atlantis, Endeavour, and Discovery, they're flying.
Well, they're getting grounded here. What's going to happen to them?
So there's been a solicitation out where science centers or museums can propose to exhibit the space shuttles. So one of them will be going to the Smithsonian, to the Air and Space Museum. I believe that's the Discovery, if I'm not mistaken. But then the other 2, the decision hasn't been made yet, but they'll presumably go to similar places.
Could somebody fly one of those still, or is it's not going to be maintained or anything?
No. So right. So
what
those
will
won't be
replace the
maintained.
shuttle? What's going to be the future?
Well, in the very short term, our astronauts will fly on the Russian Soyuz capsules. So those are in use on the International Space Station as our lifeboats. And many of our astronauts have flown on those vehicles. That'll be the short term, and the longer term we'll develop new spacecraft to take astronauts beyond Earth orbit and to the moon and beyond, eventually to Mars. What we've been working on lately are capsules on top of rockets.
Is that a good idea?
It's safer, probably cheaper overall. The shuttle is very capable, but on the flip side, the operations are expensive to operate the shuttle. There's a large staff that works to ensure that all the various systems are good for launch.
Well, what about? It sounds like a cost-cutting measure then.
Well, it's also safety is another important issue.
Enough accidents up there.
Right. So I think that's. I guess I can't. I'm not sure which is the bigger factor, but and of course the shuttles we've been flying since 1981. So we have. While there have been some upgrades, they've seen a lot of.
30 years old.
Right. Not all of the individual vehicles, but the technology, and so the systems have been flying for a long time. They have millions and millions of miles on them.
Now, is Boeing working on space planes or anything like that? Any private efforts that are going to be going into space? Do you know about that?
I'm not sure. Boeing was the main contractor, the prime contractor on the International Space Station. As far as space planes, I'm not aware of that. There are a couple of companies that are working on cargo vehicles right now, unmanned cargo vehicles, to ferry supplies up to the International Space Station. SpaceX or Space Exploration is considering the possibility of a human-rated version, but right now they're in the stage where they're developing the unmanned version first as a first step.
About this direction the space program's taking.
Yeah, it's very sad to see what's happening with our space program. The latest diversion of the budgets into some private companies that are really building spacecraft that we built back in the 60s. The capability, not that great. I think NASA oversight of things, and I think the money flowing via NASA to the contractors is the proper way to go. I am all for space tourism, I'm all for privatization, but I'm not for diverting NASA money over to those programs. I'm for cutting edge, building new spacecraft that'll take us off this planet and onto Mars and other places. And I think it's a shame. I agree with Jim Lovell and Neil Armstrong and everyone else. I think the people that are retired from NASA that can speak out all have the same common sort of theme, that we wish that we were, building state-of-the-art, high-tech capsules and spacecraft.
Do you know anything about other countries that are going into space with manned space exploration?
Thus far, only 3 nations that send people into space, with their own
Russia,
spacecraft. So
US.
Russia and the U.S., in the 60s, and then more recently, China has begun a space program where they're launching people.
Okay, now you've been an engineer for a while, haven't you?
Yes, so I've been at NASA for 27 years.
How did you get involved in engineering and rocket science?
My father and my uncles were engineers, and so I enjoyed science classes when I was in school. So I kind of followed suit. Well, I'm not sure I had to, but I enjoyed science when I was in school, and followed suit. And then I was fortunate enough to get a job opportunity at NASA. And,
well, I get the impression we're kind of getting away from space exploration. Is that kind of getting downplayed now, or are they still going after it?
No, I would disagree. So the president's plan is to increase funding for NASA. We're continuing to carry out both human and robotic space exploration. There has been a shift in directions, and that often happens. We're part of, NASA is part of the U.S. government, so we're affected by the political leadership from both the administration and Congress. Mm-hmm. So right now the new plan is to, for human space exploration, is to prepare to send astronauts, in the short term, to continue to do research on the International Space Station, but further ahead to send astronauts beyond the moon to do a asteroid rendezvous, to eventually send astronauts on to Mars.
Are there raw materials or anything up there that would be useful to us?
Yeah, so on the moon, for example, it's been argued that that would be very valuable for us to go to the moon. There's a isotope on the moon that would be useful for making nuclear fusion. Not fission, but fusion, making it much more practical. It's much more common on the moon than it is here on the Earth. And it would be a step towards making fusion more practical as an energy source.
Well, we could use a new energy source, right?
Yeah, and fusion would be a clean energy source without the radioactive byproduct that you get from fission.
Do you think there's any kind of like a good return on investment when we do research in like NASA and outer space?
Yes, I think so. There's a wide variety of spin-off technology. Our cell phones, for example. So smoke detectors.
Miniaturization is
right. So computer, satellite, being able to predict the weather. There's a lot of benefits that we get in terms of the technology that make our life better here on Earth. But there's also improvements that I think we benefit from as far as national pride, inspiring our youth to consider careers in science or engineering. So I think some of those intangible things that are difficult to quantify are also of great value.
We're sort of taking, instead of a giant leap forward, we're sort of going backwards. You got to build reliable systems. It's great to build spacecraft that can get up to the International Space Station. But on the other hand, why not build the state-of-the-art, cutting-edge stuff that can get you to the moon, get you to Mars? Instead, we sort of just shrunk our vision of what's possible.
Are the Russians or the Chinese or the Europeans doing it right?
Oh, someone's going to take over. I'll tell you that. We're about to give up our space leadership here. That was a hard-earned space leadership. Astronauts' lives lost, Apollo 1, Challenger, Columbia, and we are the leaders in space, but we basically just stepped aside and said we don't want to be the leaders any longer, and I guarantee Russia or China or India or who knows who else will step into that void. And it's not just space, it's technology leadership around the world. We seem like we just decided we're going to give that up, and it's hard to understand.
So our engineers are going to work for Japanese or Chinese or Europeans?
No, I don't think that's happened quite yet. I don't think our engineers are moving to overseas firms, but at some point, if you're a rocket scientist and a Werner von Braun kind of guy, you're going to go to where you can build stuff that moves mankind forward and pushes technology forward. You're not going to go to a place that is decided to sort of step back and privatize some things just because it's kind of a good way to go to privatize space. Again, we've been privatizing space. NASA oversees budgets. They get it out to the person that can build the best spacecraft. But I think NASA also has sort of a vision of what we can do in the future.
My name's John Porter.
Hi, John. Deb Menchaca.
Okay, they call me Jack Porter, and my show is Jack's Tea Party.
Jack's Tea Party,
and
okay.
It'll be on public access TV.
Okay.
And I ran into some of your kids, and
yes.
I'm wondering what is this program?
MTA is a 2-year program from that's through TBA ISD, the TBA Career Tech Center. And it is a program for students who are interested in engineering and robotics. And it's kind of a neat program because students come a half a day, and they get, not only do they get a technology, a hands-on piece, but they also get their science, their mathematics, and English and economics along with it. And students come from all over the region, all 5 counties. Actually, we've had students in the past that have come as far as Central Lake. We work closely with the physics instructor and the chemistry instructor and the technology instructor. And then this robotics, it's so cool. The students just get to take everything they've learned, and then in their senior year, they have this great capstone project building robots for 2 different competitions.
Okay, $54,000 question. What's the difference between an android and a cyborg?
I don't know. Nice try. You got to ask those guys.
Okay, let's go get one. I'm curious. Okay, I want to know in a nutshell, what's the difference between an android and a cyborg?
I have no idea.
You have no idea?
I think doesn't a cyborg, if you go like with Terminator, it was like, it's a robot with skin covering it.
Is that it?
I don't know. Do you remember that? Because there were cyborgs in Terminator. Remember that?
I didn't see Terminator.
You've never seen Terminator?
I've never seen Terminator.
Okay, I've seen Terminator, and that's what it did. But I don't know about an android. You're going to have to ask the NASA guys. They might know.
Okay, we'll have to get the NASA guys over here. They must know.
I don't know if I like my car either.
What's the difference between a cyborg and an android?
A cyborg and an android, what's the difference? I'll tell you, I got to get my kids out for that one, I think.
Okay, maybe you can settle an argument for us. What's the difference between an android and a cyborg?
I guess I'm not sure I know. A cyborg, I mean, this is the realm of science fiction, I think. A cyborg, I think, is part human, part machine. An android, I believe, is a artificial man.
Okay, we got a winner.
There you go.
I'm down here at the front and Monroe Street, trying to find a cyborg, and I think we've got one here. Yeah, here she comes. Okay, very good. What's your name? Michelle. Now you're using cyborg technology, right?
I sure am.
Okay, cool. Can you tell us about it?
This is called a Bioness, and I have multiple sclerosis, and I have foot drop. That means that my toes don't lift up when I walk.
So these devices are helping you to walk then? Huh?
They are helping my toes to come up.
Okay, well what?
They're picking my foot up. I mean, it's like an electronic thing that when my heel hits, my toes go up.
So you've got, what, 3 pieces to this thing, right?
Yes.
What's this one here on your waist?
Oh, this is the control. I turn it on and off with this.
Okay, and then you've got something on your knee, right?
The knee is...
So this stimulates the muscle to do something?
Yes, it does. To lift my toes when the heel hits.
Okay, so you've got a sensor in your heel too then, right?
I do, right there. And in the shoe, there is it is a sensor thing that when I step down, it goes to this, which talks to this.
Okay, so the sensor in your heel knows when you put the foot down, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to pull your toe up, otherwise your toe will stay down and kind of trip you, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's what it does.
So we have cyborg technology. Now they didn't have to be surgically altered then to have this, right?
I was not surgically altered.
Okay, so you just wear it on the outside.
I do.
Instead of on the inside, right?
This is all external, yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So I went to the grocery store testing this out, and I turned it back on after having it off while I was driving. And so I'm walking in Olson's food store, just playing with it, and people were kind of looking at me because my foot was going up and down and up and down, and I was thrilled that could happen.
So it doesn't bother you then that you're like part cyborg when you're wearing this, huh?
No. No, it matches the other side that's just regular.
Okay.
Sort of.
Good.
Yeah.